For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon deployed National Guard troops to the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson on Monday. The move follows demonstrations decrying the fatal police shooting of an unarmed black teen, Michael Brown. Over the weekend, Nixon declared a state of emergency and set a curfew calling for the streets to be cleared from midnight until 5 a.m. Schools in the area were closed Monday. Police forces on the ground have been widely criticized for using excessive force in response to protesters. That has included the use of military equipment. And staying in the U.S., President Barack Obama today gave an update on the ongoing campaign in Iraq. The British Defense Minister also announced Monday British troops could stay in Iraq for many months. At a White House press conference, President Obama warned that the campaign will continue as long as necessary. And staying with Iraq, the Pentagon says it carried out 15 airstrikes near the Mosul Dam in northern Iraq on Monday. The dam had been captured by the Islamic State group earlier this month. It has now been recaptured by Iraqi government forces. The dam, Iraq's biggest, is vital for water and electricity supplies. If damaged, though, hundreds of thousands could be affected by widespread flooding. And moving on, Ecuadorian Foreign Minister Ricardo Patiño criticizes the United Kingdom's refusal to allow WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange to travel to Ecuador. The South American country has offered Assange political asylum. Assange says he soon hopes to leave the Ecuadorian embassy, implying that he expects a case against him in Sweden to collapse. There, Assange is wanted for questioning in a sexual assault investigation. Assange has not officially been charged. Since entering its embassy, Ecuador has offered the Swedish authorities the chance to question Assange in the embassy. So far, Sweden has refused to take up that offer. Ecuador has also suggested the questioning could take place in Ecuador as long as Sweden and the UK agree not to extradite Assange to the U.S. Both countries also refuse that offer. And Patiño called on the international community to demand that Assange be granted what he calls a basic right.
National community to coordinate their efforts, as it has been done but not strongly enough so far, to guarantee that Julian Assange's rights are guaranteed, and not only his rights, but also international law regarding asylum.
To Brazil we go. A new poll published Monday shows current President Dilma Rousseff leading the pack ahead of October's presidential elections. The poll shows Rousseff leading her rivals with 36% of the vote. Her closest competitor, Marina Silva, garnered 21% of the poll. She's followed by Aécio Neves, who earned 20%. The results suggest the election could end in a second-round runoff between President Dilma Rousseff and candidate Marina Silva. In Venezuela, the fight against crime is showing improvement, with new figures demonstrating that kidnapping rates have dropped. The Venezuelan Peace and Justice Minister attributes the declines to authorities' new focus on crime.
We have achieved a 52.3% reduction in kidnappings, in 30.5% in car thefts. Rapes have been reduced in 26.3%. Car theft, which have not improved, are now increasingly diminishing in 1.8%. That has a lot to do with the raids we have done on parking lots and warehouses. The homicide rate has also been reduced in 21.2%.
Israel and Hamas agreed to a new ceasefire late Monday. Earlier, the United Nations Security Council had urged for an extension of the 5-day ceasefire that expired Monday. Separately, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency also underscored the need for peace and an end to the Israeli blockade on Gaza. UN stats show that a failure to do so could result in a 15-year delay in Gaza's recovery.
It's clear that the discussions are very important about a ceasefire and a consolidated ceasefire. People have suffered here enough. There has been too much loss of life and injury and destruction already for Gaza to cope with. So the ceasefire is important, but it's not enough. It is not enough to have a cessation of hostilities and then go back to the pre-existing conditions under the blockade, which on my first visits I already described here before the conflict as being unsustainable in human terms. It is not possible to have 830,000 people and now 1.1 million people out of 1.8 million people in Gaza under UNRWA's food distribution list and WFP's food distribution list.
The Venezuelan plane loaded with tons of much-needed humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza has arrived in Egypt. The humanitarian aid will now be transported by the Egyptian authorities overland to the Palestinian city of Rafah, the location of a large refugee camp. In Ukraine, 14 refugees were killed Monday as they tried to leave the eastern region of Lugansk. The Ukrainian government blames rebel forces, but the rebels have denied responsibility. Fighting has intensified in recent months as Ukraine seeks to recover cities lost to rebels. The separatists demand greater autonomy. Ukrainian bombings have led to a rapidly rising death toll and a resulting humanitarian crisis. Today marks the 78th anniversary of the assassination of Spanish poet and playwright Federico Garcia Lorca. Garcia Lorca was killed by fascist forces in August 1936 as a result of his activism and anti-fascist stance. He participated in various rallies in support of the Spanish Republic. Born in Granada, Lorca met Salvador Dali, Luis Buñuel, and other famous intellectuals during his college years. His most famous play, La Casa de Bernarda Alba, exploring women's oppression and social conservatism, was published the year of his death. As always, more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle.